30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. But we take it to do with the applicant. They take a week for meeting. Keep 2 or 3 slaughter meters in the applicant. They didn't like to, or they actually want you to meet to me. And then they was just, then they said, no, we're not gonna do this anymore. There's something we're just gonna meet here. We'll call you in if there's something you've got, you know. David's not like that.
Well, it is the stroke of 6 o'clock. Welcome to the Lincolnville Select Board meeting on October 27th, 2025. And Robin, would you read the quote for the evening?
There are only 2 ways of telling the complete truth, anonymously and posthumously. Thomas Sowell.
Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 1, the Citizens Forum. If anybody would like to come to the podium and talk about an item not on the agenda. Seeing no one rushing forward, we'll move on to the administrator's report.
So beyond what is on the agenda, just a reminder to people that absentee ballots are available for the November 4th voting. They're available Thursday through Thursday at request, and after Thursday, you need to fill out a special circumstance application to receive an absentee ballot. Winter sand has been stockpiled and barn doors closed. Hope we never have to take any out. Wentworth Road, we've completed the tree and brush removal. The floats at Breezemere Park will be removed the first week in November. The remaining floats, the swim float's already out. And at the harbor, the easternmost float and the westernmost dinghy float will also be removed the first week in November. The town have closed on the McKay Road property that was authorized by town meeting at the end of September. And do need at some point some guidance from the board that's not on the agenda about what we want to do with the custodial position. We're starting to get applications in, and our current custodian will leave at the end of the month, and like to get somebody on board sooner rather than later.
Any questions for the?
Yeah, I mean, that leaves us, this building without a custodian for a week or till our next meeting, right? Okay, you guys can live through that?
We'll struggle through somehow, I'm sure.
counting on you. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Robin, did you?
Yes, what I wanted to.
Okay. And I don't have a question, but I believe you mentioned it at a previous meeting, but I was down at the pier and all the railings and everything. They came out really good, all the improvements to the railings.
And
it was down there.
It was a day before it was time to do it, was when it got completed.
Yeah.
So
especially the one that connects to go to the Alsboro folks.
Yep.
Crossing over that was rickety. It's in good shape now. Excellent, thank you. Moving forward to meetings and announcements.
all meetings are here in the town office unless announced otherwise. The Lakes and Ponds Committee meets Tuesday, October 28th, 7 p.m. Lincolnville Central School Committee meets Monday, November 3rd, 6 p.m. at the Lincolnville Central School. Election day or voting, it will be conducted on Tuesday, November 4th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. in the gymnasium of Lincolnville Central School. The Comprehensive Plan Review Committee is scheduled to meet Wednesday, November 5th, 6 p.m. Recreation Commission is scheduled to meet Monday, November 10th, 6 p.m. And the Select Board's next meeting is Monday, November 10th, 6 p.m.
Thank you. And are there any upcoming community events? Hearing none. Moving on to the minutes from our last meeting. Have a motion.
I move to approve the minutes.
I second it.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Passes. And the next item up is boards, committee, and commission appointments. Justine,
Not here.
not here, that's us. So we will move on. Item number, go back to my other page. Item number 7 is regarding Moody Mountain Road. David, do you have anything you want to add before? Anybody?
Just that I've been contacted by a number of citizens from Moody Mountain Road concerning vehicular traffic and possible requests for either weight, width, or some sort of speed control. And they requested to be on the agenda, and here they are.
Excellent. Would anyone like to come up to address the board?
Thank you for having us. I'm Teresa Colby, Moody Mountain Road. And thank you, David, for helping us maneuver the meeting protocol. Now, we realize that Moody Mountain Road isn't the only one with traffic problems, but ours didn't begin with the Route 1 reconstruction and rerouting. It's been building for several years now. Most of us who have written to you of our concerns have lived on the road for 40 to 50 years. And we don't want conflict, but this past year was a breaking point that we ask you to address. At issue with us is the new trend of large, heavy, and wide truck traffic on our narrow country road, which wasn't intended for that kind of use. In no way, there's Rosie, we're not asking to have limits placed on local construction companies who live and pay taxes here, or on residents having construction projects done or deliveries made on their properties, to their properties. With respect to the local truckers, we ask that in return, they would use routes 173 and 105 when transporting extra heavy equipment when possible. We have no control over most of our tax dollars, but we ask for local control over our local road, which all residents pay for with local taxes. Every spring, our secondary roads are posted and have been for many decades. So there's always been a concern of the selectmen and the townspeople to protect road quality. We ask that that concern be extended on a permanent basis for Moody Mountain Road. And we've sent the letters. I think you've got our letters, right? Any questions for me or?
Yeah, I guess, Tracy, so if you were to guess, how many large vehicle trucks are going through a day?
It depends on the day.
Yeah.
Of course, there was more, we might have had more with the reconstruction redirection. But I think the guys can talk about that, or Frank can address that. We don't take account.
Yeah.
We don't take pictures. And there are, of course, there are some local builders that use the road often, but like I said, we're talking about the trucks that must come down from Route 3 to go to Route 1 via 235. We don't know where they're coming from, but they weren't local trucks, a lot of them.
Okay.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board?
Kathy Andreoni. I just wanted to give a quick brief history of the truck traffic issues that we've had. It was approximately 1998 when the road was paved over the top of the hill to go to Searsmont. Shortly after, we started getting issues. Moving on to 2003, we came before the select board with a weight limit proposition, but at the select board at that time voted no. Next, moving on to 2006, Bruce Brierly, who was the head selectman from Searsmont, came before the board to offer free road narrow signs as well as weight restriction signs to Lincolnville. And with the thought that, you needed to post it on their end as well as our end at the same time. But again, the select board at the time declined, and Bruce has passed away. But I can tell you he was surprised that the select board declined his offer, and he merely wanted the two towns to work together. Moving along to this year, I know that Searsmont's having their issues with the speeding traffic as we are, the large truck usage, and where they have just repaved their end. And I don't know if anybody's been up there, but excuse me, they did a beautiful job with ditching and paving and all that. So there's a concern there as well as the money that goes into the roads, is a lot of tax dollars. One of the things that I looked up is Maine DOT, instead of just having a sign that merely says, weight limit restricted or whatever, that they have a no through truck sign that could be set for certain weights, as that if the town decided to do that. And one of the old things that everybody was always saying was who's going to enforce it. But when you're driving around Hope, Appleton, any of the small towns, none of them have police departments that go out and patrol or take care of these types of things. So I don't see an issue with who would enforce it. If it needed to be, it would be select board, town administrator, etc.
Any questions?
You surprised me when you said select board or town administrator to enforce it, because I'm really not sure how we could enforce
Or, well,
something.
they would,
But-
I don't know, I would suppose they would call the company and say, your truck was on a road that was posted, and see what happened. I don't know, to tell you the truth, I didn't dig that far in. I just know that there's other small towns that have the signs and they don't have a police force. Your county sheriff can do it, state police.
This is for David. So I've got a question for David about
Oh.
2006, did you say? There was conversation between Searsmont and Lincolnville?
Yep,
Okay,
Bruce Riley.
okay, thanks. Yeah. Do we have like records of that or some sort of institutional? measure,
I am
David?
sure that there are minutes of the meeting. I've forgotten all about it, but I almost remember Bruce.
I
Yeah,
have
you're talking.
a newspaper clip.
There you go. So if Kathy could share the approximate date, then I could look in the minutes to find the real date.
Yeah, they don't, I looked, I couldn't
06.
find anything back that far on my iPad at home. I'm sure that maybe somewhere.
I'm sure we can look.
Yeah,
That's
it would
what
be,
it
it'd be good to have it because we don't know I don't know what was discussed. With Searsmont.
I think there's. You want to just, yep.
I was on the select board at that time and I remember that meeting. I don't remember not disputing it. Article may say it, whatever, but I don't remember that they were willing to give us any signs or any of that. But I do remember that they came and wanted us to do something on this end. That I do remember, no problem. And I'm not disputing that if it says it in the paper or something, maybe it did, but I don't recall that. But I do remember that it was a tough situation at that time. It's really hard. And I think it wasn't the same problem. It was basically one company was sending several trucks, dump trucks and stuff at the time, is what the issue was on the Sears morning. That's all.
Yeah, thanks.
Any,
Oh,
anybody else that would like to address the board on this?
No, I guess what we're just basically asking is to the board is what can be done if anything?
Yeah.
You know, and just I guess that's basically, you know, what we're asking. Thanks.
Yep, sorry. Got to make sure the outside world can.
I just, I wanted to ask David why he was opposed to it. I saw it on the, in the packet.
Do you care to address that?
Posting a throughway doesn't solve the problem, it moves the problem. It's been my experience. Because that truck, if it's, or vehicle, if it's legal, goes a different way to by somebody else's home. I don't know if that makes it any better or any worse, makes it worse for somebody else and better for someone else. Width, I don't think we have the ability to regulate widths of vehicles. Speed, if with the issue of speed, I would encourage everybody to call Waldo County Sheriff's Office or us to, or the board to ask them to increase it. I know at times they have 2 deputies on for 26 communities in Waldo County. And I hate to say it out loud, but speed's not their primary concern at that point. So.
Go ahead, Rob.
oh, well, I was going, she just raised her hand, so I was going to defer to.
Oh, yep.
I remember one of those meetings, and I don't know if you were selectman then, Rosie, but a bunch of the guys came, the truck drivers and the loggers and all. Logging trucks have been on our road as well recently. And they, at the time, I think it was 2008. Does that sound right? When there was a financial crisis, the banking crisis was going on, gas prices were over $4 a gallon. And that was the issue that you brought up, or your guys, whoever was here, was saying that it's, every mile costs us how many dollars or more dollars. But, 173 and 105 are state roads, 235 are state roads. And that's what they're built for, is that kind of traffic. Our road, the secondary roads aren't built for that. And the state roads are not posted in the spring like the secondary roads are. So right now it's like, I don't know what diesel is, I know regular gas is like $3 a gallon. So that I don't think that could be an argument that it would be so far for them to drive to 173 from where we are. It's 3 miles or something.
So she basically took what I was going to say, but you said it better than I did. I guess because my feeling is number one, it's a bigger problem than just Moody Mountain Road, because it is a Youngtown Road, High Street, Moody Mountain. Probably Slab City gets its share for all I know. And I wanted to bring up that point too, that I feel like we should do something to at least, whether it's speed limits or whether it's doing something that we can do with signage to direct traffic onto the state roads, because they are, we didn't want to let the state use Youngtown Road as an official detour because of the heaviness of the traffic that's going to be on the road. I think we should at least have signage. Maybe we can get some of those, because I think it's speed and size of vehicles, but I know we've had those little temporary things that are the speed trap things that tell you how fast you're going, that have shown that they at least get people temporarily to, you know, calm their driving. And there are other more permanent calming things that can be done on roads if people really wanted to have them, which I'm not sure that there is the will for people to want to, you know, the things that are kind of like a speed bump that are designed for people to go over at certain speeds. So anyway, I do think that we shouldn't just say, well, there's, you know, nothing we can do.
So
No, go ahead, please.
So I was just getting a few different things I think we've got to touch on here. One is weight limits. We set them for a specific purpose for the quality of the road when the season is soft. For the putting a permanent weight limit on the road would be extremely hard to do anything with. Is it a local truck or is it a through truck? Or trying to make those fine line delineations are going to be extremely tough for us to implement or manage in any way, shape, or form. So I see a very difficult thing there. As David mentioned, as far as size of truck, the width, etc., we have no say. That's state law. On the speed, again, we have no say. The speed limits are set by the state. People could pursue exactly what's being done on Youngtown Road right now, of asking the state to review, and they'll do a study and come back. The only risk of that, which is probably not going to happen, but the risk is they could come back lowering the speed limit, keeping it the same, or increasing, and they make that very clear in their statements up front. When you ask for that process. I think some potential signs about through heavy traffic, there could be something there, but we need to get a lot more information as to what's available to us for that.
If you have something that's overweight on a road, either when it's whether it's posted seasonally or permanently, because the one thing I think it might have been you, but I forget who said something about, you know, a photo of people speeding. A photo is not going to show you someone speeding, but a photo is certainly going to show that you've got a semi on, you know, Moody Mountain Road. And if you've got photographic evidence, especially with a business name or a license plate or something, I would think that you could then, you know, at a minimum, someone in authority could, you know, call a business and, you know, warn them or something that what they're doing is against the law, and, you know, you could end up with a fine, or just fine them. But
A lot of supposition right now.
Yeah.
We would need to do research and get facts as to what the actual things are to do. Feel free.
So to address that, Robin. So a year ago, February, I took a load of logs. I have a single axe truck. It's registered for, I have it registered for 42,000 pounds, but doesn't matter. The weight limit on the door, the maximum weight is 36,800 pounds. So I went through the Belmont Fire Station and the DOT was there and pulled me over. And when he finally got around to saying what he wanted to say, he says, "We're going to weigh you up because you're way overweight. I can tell by looking at you way overweight." So then he proceeded to put the scales on each wheel and did the whole thing. And he asked me to come and verify that that was exactly what the scale said, and I did. And when it was all said and done, he said, "You see," he says, when I calculate things, sometimes this it lies, but my calculator never lies. So he calculated all the figures of all the things up. And he did it 3 times. I was 4,000 pounds underweight. So it's really, really hard. And I understand where they're coming from. I just, like you said, be on Youngtown Road for a while, when we were getting all the tractor trailers coming that didn't want to go through the construction. But thank God, we had a saving grace of having a bridge put in.
I know.
But it's really hard to tell that weight, Robin. It really is that someone is overweight. And there are very few trucks actually being stopped for being overweight today. They're right at the limit, and plus they're allowed 10% if it's gravel or wood or something like that. They're allowed 10%. You know real well with the oil truck. But one of the things I wanted to know is there a lot of tractor trailer traffic on? There's been a lot of tractor trailer traffic. Yeah. I can see why you're concerned about that. Is there not normal?
We're talking, BSB is one, I
Yeah.
think those transport ones,
Yeah.
the big long ones. Coming to come down in the middle of the night. And, yeah,
Running for lights. I couldn't understand why we didn't have the headlights on. 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, going.
And so it's just the bill. And just to comment again on what you were saying, Rod, and a picture, it could be an empty 18-wheeler, it's underweight by a long shot. So it's a picture is not gonna give us.
Even when they have things, those things where they're limiting the number of axles that a vehicle can be on roads.
Sometime, again, we're doing a lot of supposition here.
Yeah, along those lines, because I don't think, we don't have enough information
Nope.
to solve this by tomorrow morning, eh? And, but what I would like to see happen myself is for us to go back in time or go back and talk with Searsmont, find out what the conversations were, talk with Searsmont and see if they have any ideas. And together we may come up with something or at least see what's possible, right? But there's also the option, because this isn't just a Moody Mountain road problem, is it? It's townwide problem. See, and I tend to think maybe this is the time when, I hate to say form a committee, and actually have people look at the issue. What can we do with town roads? And I think if such a group were to form, it could look at a lot of these possible options and discount them perhaps really quickly. I don't know, as well as get into conversations with the state and see what's allowable and what's doable. And who knows, there may actually be funding to solve this or to address it and solve it. But it ain't gonna happen by tomorrow morning or next week.
I think
You're putting up with a lot of noise and danger until then.
Well, I'm glad for your consideration and.
sorry, any discussion has to come to the podium.
Well, oh, you're not gonna walk over. I was gonna say, while you walked over, I can ask you a quick question. Is MMA a resource for us and something?
I would think they would be, yeah.
Yeah.
Potentially. I think there's only really, I wouldn't want to go the committee route until we have our town administrator or
Yeah.
our public facilities director do a little research.
No, that makes
as
a lot,
to
yeah.
what options are out there, how are other towns
Yeah, right.
solving
Yeah.
these types of issues, because they're real. That would be the first step, I think.
I agree with you, yeah.
And they may have some advice, but I think the real world of what other towns are doing to similarly address would be the first step.
Well, we could build a whole new intersection, a whole new route have a ribbon cutting. Yeah, anyway, no, yeah, other towns are doing it.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming in to bring this to our attention and discuss it. And,
Well-
David, can you
I can do anything.
you and our public facilities director do a little research? If the rest of the board is so inclined, have David and the public facilities director do some research as to what other towns are doing to address
Yes.
this type of issue.
Yeah, and David, if you could you know, dig up those minutes. And
Yeah.
whatever conversation you have, and if you're like working the telephone on this, if you don't mind calling Searsmont Town, and seeing what they might remember, what they have on.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
Yes, thank you.
very much.
Yeah.
Moving forward to agenda item number 8, the Christmas by the Sea bonfire. Andy Young.
Everybody, Andy Young, Lincolnville Beach. I guess back again, we need to ask permission to use Lincolnville Beach for a bonfire. Been going on for 40 years, never really was an issue until Rick sold the takeout and the state started pushing Donnie to have fire permits signed and stuff. We still got it's really, this thing happens organically. I mean, nobody's really in charge of it. You know, so it's kind of a pain in the, guess what? Especially nowadays that with the town and the fire chief asking for signatures, nobody really wants to put a signature on this. I mean, we've investigated, the Historical Society cannot get liability insurance for this. Christmas by the Sea, the entire event has no liability insurance with either Camden, Rockport, or Lincolnville. You know, so we're kind of caught in this place of a community-wide event that nobody runs, but it's been happening for 40 years. All of a sudden has to start becoming more and more official. The last couple of years, either Eddie O'Brien or myself have put our signature on the fire permit. Last year, I was going to fill it out online under Chris Kringle. It was Chris K. Ringle, actually, was the name we are going to do, but backed out at the last moment because we had to have an email address attached to it. And I didn't know who was going to get thrown under the bus on that one. You know, it's probably kind of late this year to ask the town to look at it. But at what point does an event like this become an actual official town event? We have all these events in town, Memorial Day Parade, the Strawberry Festival Parade. There's town equipment, there's all this stuff, but apparently nobody's really in charge of those either because there's no liability or anything on those. And I'm certainly not trying to say we stop doing those things, but I think it's something for the town to look at is we have townwide events that who's responsible if something happens. I know who's going to be responsible if I put my name on a fire permit and some idiot gets hurt. Technically it's going to come back on me. And every time I put my signature on it, you know, I'm opening up liability issues. So I probably will do it once again this year. But I'd like the select board to start looking at whether events might fit under the recreation committee or something like that and start looking at some of these things that we do as a town. You know, to be able to do this. So kind of a two-prong. Number one, last year, David had to have a letter of approval that went to the fire chief. I had to acknowledge it. I had to sign on the dotted line for the fire permit. I'm assuming the same thing's going to happen this year. Although you guys are going to have discussions with the town attorney and insurance companies too about the bonfire on the town beach. I don't know if those took place this year or just are now coming up to be there. So I'm going to kind of end it with that and kind of listen to what you guys have to say. I'll answer any questions. So
Questions?
Well, I know, you know, I've missed a couple of select board meetings over the course of the year since this came up last year, but I don't remember us specifically ever talking with the town attorney about the town's liability. But I agree with Andy that I think it is something we should ask the town attorney about. I think it's a good use of the town attorney to, it's probably, we're not recreating the wheel here, so I'm sure this is something that's not going to incur a lot of legal fees for us, to get some direction from the town attorney, and I personally would want to do that.
No, yeah, I agree. I think it's past time.
So,
We figured this whole issue out, and that starts with conversation. And see what we got, to see where the layers of liability and risk are and all that other stuff. We gotta remember. It's town on property, there are 2,300 people who are. See y'all later, I don't know what the word is, who would be subject to liability, I guess. Claimants or not claimants, or plaintiffs, but not plaintiffs, but you know what I'm saying. So the responsibility goes. Spread wide. And certainly doesn't go to just one event, and then we deal with it again and again every year. We gotta get a handle on it.
Yeah, because, I mean, the bonfire is kind of the sticky point, but as you mentioned, if we have, the Memorial Day parade or something, I know the Strawberry Festival is, technically it's not really run, it's the church kind of does the Strawberry Festival. So, but, there is the involvement of town vehicles in the parade, and yeah, what if something went off the reservation and created property damage or some kind of accident happened? I mean, I feel like that's also a legitimate question in the same conversation with the attorney to ask about something like that when we're having parades in town. For our own knowledge too.
Yeah, and it may well be the case that because let's say the bonfires on town property, and the town might have a layer of protection because of it being on town property. I think might be in state statute somehow. At least I thought that was the case, that things that happen on town property might have some sort of protection. Anyway, if it turns out that's the case, that doesn't mean the town can't get sued. And suddenly taxpayers are paying for a legal defense of a bill they're never gonna lose the suit, but they're sure as heck gonna pay for it. Yeah, and so we gotta think about that too.
I think there's a few different things. One, I love the event. It's like, I mean, we want to be able to support that event. It's been part of the area for a long time. I do, when I'm down there every year, look and go, oh my word, this is sometimes it's like, who's gonna fall into the fire or whatever. It does scare me sometimes.
Usually the heat's enough that it
Oh, I
keeps
know.
everybody
Yeah.
away.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so there's a safety area
Yeah.
because it's too hot. And
yep.
there was a worry one time about the town Christmas tree. There was an individual said it'd be great if that actually burned up and they could plant a new one. I won't name the person, but I might look at them. Might have been me.
But
I think it just,
yeah, that said, I think we do need to do two things. One, we do need to follow up with our fire chief again as usual. And number two, we do need to engage, as has already been suggested, with our town attorney on this as well. Potentially, the outcome of those two things, we would pursue the same path we did last year, as you just mentioned. I guess I'll repeat what then Chair Dunn said last year. Now is the time to be thinking about this for next year. As far as, does this become a town event like everything else or not?
are there any other town, there's really no other town events, is there?
There's really not, but does this become more than just an ad hoc once a year thing, or does it become tied to more of what happens with some of the other events you named? Some independent group, not the board, needs to think about that and come forward to the board with a proposition if that was the case.
What's the, not to give the recreation committee any more work. What's their charge? Is it just facilities or is it facilities and events?
I would say it's not.
Their charge is very loosely defined by town charter.
Mhm.
Almost to the point where it's self-defined by them,
Yeah.
as long as it's, you can tie it to recreation. And then if obviously if they need approval for a facility or a funding, it comes back through
Mhm.
this group.
Yeah.
Or this group.
I'm just trying to see where it might actually fit in as a town event.
Yep.
Other than the recreation committee, I can't think of anything. Public, doesn't really go with public works unless he wants to get rid of some stuff to burn. So,
Just made me think of something else too, that like if our fire truck, I mean, it's been, usually our fire truck is available to give Santa a ride, right, to the beach. But our fire trucks also are involved in like the parade in Camden, aren't they?
Hmm.
And when our fire trucks do something like that in another town, that's not a mutual aid going to a fire in Camden, it's being in a parade. It's another attorney question. Is there exposure for the town in any way if something happens with that truck when it's out of town doing another event like that?
In any activity we do, there is exposure. In any activity we don't do, there's exposure. Fortunately, our fire vehicles are fully insured and our drivers, as long as they've done the necessary, have the necessary license and training, they're covered by our insurance. So if we're at a parade in Camden or we're at the Strawberry Festival parade or we're transporting Santa, the town is protected for that activity. If we put Dave Kinney in that truck and if I could make it move, I was operating it and something happened, we might not be. Because Dave Kinney's not qualified to operate that. This is a homegrown
Right. Well, this
organic
is
event, so
a
this is,
different thing because
this is
we're talking
different.
about Fire.
and it is something that, we can get some information from our insurer, from our fire chief, from our town attorney. But then the bigger question for you is, even if it's okay, is it something you wish for the town to take on?
Right.
And, do you need information to get to that point? Maybe, maybe not.
Could I ask because I think we are talking about maybe asking the town attorney something, and you just mentioned the insurance. Could we find out from our insurance carrier what the cost would be of a special event rider for a liability for having
You
bonfire on the beach?
certainly can, or we certainly could. They may say, what are the precautions going into it? They always want more detail. It's a campfire down there on the beach versus it's a 20-foot tall pile of pallets with.
It's about 10 feet tall now.
Oh, all right. 10-foot tall pile of pallets with a Christmas tree stuck on top and it gets touched off and we all.
Right.
They
Well,
may say it's uninsurable. I don't know.
They may, or they may say, well, it would cost $1,000.
Right. Go see
for-
Lloyd's of London. I don't know.
But
If that's
I mean,
something
it
you.
could be, what I'm trying to get at is it could be a reasonably small amount of money that could be something that either was put in the town budget or was an article on the annual meeting for people to say, do you want to vote to pay to insure the bonfire for?
This is exactly why
So,
last year it was recommended that a committee of some sort come forth to this board.
Yeah.
These things are out of our purview at this moment. We need people to come forward with a recommendation or an ask as a committee saying we'd like to do this or make it a town event. For tonight, this one-off request we've got, we need to pursue at this point, the same as we have in previous years. And we don't have anything to approve tonight other than to ask David to reach out to the town attorney and the fire chief, as well as our insurance carrier, and just double check what our concerns may or may not be. And from there, we'll have enough information to make a decision. Do you have any other thoughts on that, David?
The only other thought I have is when Andy called me, I believe you said they're getting ready to advertise.
Yeah,
and print brochures.
So
and-
the flyers going out, I think it's just gonna list the bonfire, and if there is no bonfire, maybe we'll do a burn barrel, you know. So I jokingly said that to somebody, they said, how many burn barrels will they let us have? Then we began talking about, you know, an old oil truck with the top cut off it, and that will burn barrel, so. It's a, yeah, so it goes there. I mean, remember too, the bonfire is a part of a number of events. The town Christmas party is happening at the old LIA. It was originally an LIA event. The Historical Society runs it now. The ladies in town are baking up a bunch of stuff and making sandwiches, and the caroling will be going on. Santa will be arriving on the fire truck. It'd be awful to lose another part of that. I mean, years ago, John Cookson used to do rides down there. I mean, all my kids used to take the horse ride and go around the circle and come back, and he did it for free. And then Camden offered him money, and off he went to Camden. So we lost the horse rides. It'd be awful to lose the bonfire too, because I'm just not really sure whether the caroling, and I guess Santa will still show up, but you know, and if it's a no, I guess the other, what's that? I know I upset Kern last year, and I certainly didn't mean to, when I said, you know, the headline could read "Selectmen Cancel Christmas." You know, but it's, if we can't do it, you know, a bonfire, is there some other alternative that we could do? I mean, literally, could we put a barrel down there with some stuff in it, and people are sitting around a barrel with fire coming out of it? Or is there something more that, I mean, we don't want to do that. We'd like to have just a bonfire. So that's it.
I think thank you, Andy, and I think we have a course of action, and we'll have a follow-up on this at our next board meeting.
That's when you want it.
Yep.
That's good to me. Thank you. Item number 9.
Some of the reason I never came back again, too busy with Landy.
We have a public hearing regarding the consideration of extension of major non-residential development project moratorium ordinance. I get a motion to go into public hearing.
Yeah, I move that we go into public hearing.
I second.
All in favor? Cool. Is there any member of the public that would like to address the board in regards to the extension of the major non-residential development project moratorium ordinance? Seeing no one rushing forward, we can close that hearing. And a motion to close the hearing.
That we close the hearing.
Second that.
All in favor? Excellent. With that, I am of the understanding that we fully meet all the requirements in state law to allow us to extend the moratorium for another 180-day period. You agree? I would look for a motion.
I do agree, but I'd also like David, for the record, to enlighten the public to maybe list where we are right now, what the committee has accomplished.
Sure. And the chair of that land use committee said, no, I'll just, if I misstate you, correct me. The land use committee has finalized its recommendations regarding the draft amendments. And that has been sent for legal review. The consultant that's been assisting the land use committee has met with legal counsel. And it sits squarely on her desk somewhere. And I would say that that should be at some point relatively soon coming back. If there's any need for changes to it, then the land use committee would have another get together and see what those changes or suggestions might be. And if not, I would anticipate at some point the land use committee chair or their designee would come and say, we think we're done. This is legally sufficient, and get an explanation probably of the overview of it. And at that point, it would go off to public hearing and for consideration for another day.
Okay, thank you.
So it sounds as though if it survives this legal review, it might be such that we'd be moving forward between now and.
I would like to think this would be ready for June. I don't really see any, even if it required more changes by the land use committee. I mean, I don't think it would be anything too, onerous at this point. But this next extension won't get us through to June, but I think if we could get all the ducks in a row, so we could say we're going to vote on it in June and put it on the warrant, it'd be ready to go.
It's great to hear the progress that's being made. Thank you, Land Use Committee.
Yes, the believe, don't hold me to this, I believe the public hearing is required by the planning board when the amendments are, but they've got to get through legal review. Then this group has to basically agree that the methodology and the what's being proposed is reasonable and appropriate for the community. And then at that point, you'd say, we're good with it. Let's forward it on for a public hearing and don't, well, I won't comment about the future, so.
Excellent. Look for a motion.
Okay, I'll make it.
Okay.
Is it my turn?
I think so.
Okay, I'll go. Okay, I move that the select board find that the problems giving rise to the need for a moratorium still exist. And reasonable progress is being made to alleviate the problems. That all the provisions of the town of Lincolnville major non-residential development project moratorium ordinance are hereby extended for an additional 180 days.
I second that word salad.
Yeah.
All in favor? Motion passes. Finishes that. We'll move on to item number 10. As the Board of Assessors, and so for this, Mike will be, well, first Mike has to do this first vote.
I'll hang in there.
So
Yeah.
we make a motion here for this first piece.
I move that we suspend our meeting as the select board and that we convene as the Board of Assessors.
Second.
All in favor? Well,
Now, kicking.
No, I'm.
Mr. Gary, you're now part of this fine group. So David, we have some abatements.
Yes, so the revaluation company was not able to conduct all the hearings prior to doing tax commitment. And so they've continued to do hearings since then, or meetings with taxpayers. Some have resulted in no change and some have resulted in a recommendation for abatement because they can't make the change now because it's out of their purview. It's to the Board of Assessors. The company has recommended a total of 26 abatements from those additional hearings. The total tax amount being $15,008.98.
Can you remind me of the amount of the overlay?
Rough numbers, 160, yeah.
And it is, okay. We're well within the overlay.
Oh, yes, yeah. And the board had additional funds in overlay beyond the norm because we didn't know what abatements would be coming forward. We also just, this doesn't impact these 26, but there are some people that have filed a real, not that these aren't real, have filed the paperwork for an abatement request. The Board of Assessors will have 60 days to make a determination on those, or they're, by state statute, they're deemed denied. We don't ignore any of those that come in. There'll be a packet that we put together that will be heard before the first one that was filed within the 60 days, so you can get more than one. But these were all things that the assessors, when they met with the people, they said, oh, that is an error, you have, you know, this instead of that. Made the change, said this would amount to $188, and we'll recommend this to the select or to the Board of Assessors for consideration.
Any questions from the? If not, is there a motion?
I move that the board approve abatement numbers 2526-01 through 2526-26 in the tax amount of $15,008.98.
Second it.
Any other discussion? None, all in favor? And so we need to, as the Board of Assessors, move that we adjourn in fact.
I move that we adjourn our meeting as the Board of Assessors and reconvene as the Select Board.
Second. All in favor? Thank you, Mr. Gary.
Thank you, Rosie.
Yeah, you do. Don't go away without.
Select
Anyone that was
person
5 months.
updates.
I don't have anything.
Mike, you don't.
Oh, no, I did have something.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yep.
This coming Saturday is the first day that the woodshed in our depot there will be having clients come and pick up wood. So there'll be a little bit of activity there Saturday morning.
Okay.
That's it.
Excellent.
Well, I spent a fun morning at the county commissioner's office talking about the TAN with the chair of our budget committee and Carrie, their finance person, and well, and also we just had a meeting, 2 meetings, Friday night and all day Saturday. At the end of our Saturday meeting, as a group, we pretty much voted 8-0 because there was one person missing, to ask the commissioners to reconsider their decision to do this 18-month budget. And in a nutshell, the point of them doing this is that they wanted to change their fiscal year from a calendar year to basically coincide with our calendar year, I mean, our fiscal year. The problem is that it's kind of like, to me, the way I think of it in my head is it's like I've been paying rent at the end of each month, and now my landlord wants to switch me to paying rent, you know, halfway through the month. And so I've got 1 month where I'm going from always paying for something that's completely happened to now paying something where I'm sorry, paying at the beginning of the month, you know, so you're like doubling up. So now you're like prepaid into the future on something. And there are so many other things that they're also trying to do at the county. I mean, one of the things, they had a lot of disruption in 2023, maybe 2022, but in that time period with what, 6 different finance directors in 1 year, it was terrible. One of them really messed it up, the first one, and basically, they're operating 44 checking accounts at the county now, where this finance director had the very unusual idea that every single fund needed or purpose needed to have its own separate account, rather than just accounting for it. And it's created this extremely convoluted system. They're also dealing with 30-year-old financial software that they are starting January 1st to flip over to a modern system. But and because their finances have been all screwed up, they're very behind on their audits, a couple of years behind on the audits. So they've been trying to be very conservative in their spending. They've never been in a position where they didn't have enough money in their checking accounts to cover their bills, but they're very concerned that, and they don't know, honestly, until these audits get done, we won't really know what their unreserved fund balance is. I mean, I asked the question well, I won't go into that. It could very well be that the towns get a big refund, basically, of money. That's what Carrie was saying. There's what statute says they can only keep 20 or 30% above their budget in unrestricted fund balance or something like that. And so they may end up in a position where they actually have to refund back to the cities and towns. But right now, there's no way to know. And the good news is that they've never been in a position, I mean, their TAN borrowing is definitely less than what we've been budgeting. We budgeted 300,000 or so 2 years ago. For this year, we budgeted 390,000. The actual for last year, when it was like 308, we only actually spent half of that. And so, so I'm actually taking figures from them because they're also they're well staffed for what they theoretically are doing, but because their books are so messed up, they end up always putting out fires and stuff. So they don't have the staff to really do a more in-depth analysis. I'm actually doing it now to look at, we've looked at what we did today was a lot of looking at seasonality of their expenditures and their revenue streams, so that, I'm basically going to create a timeline over the last couple of years so that we've got something for into the future, looking at what is the seasonality of, they get all of their revenue. This year, for instance, right now, they've gotten 25% of the cities. Everything's going to come in November, basically. So, they have pretty consistent expenditures through the year, and then they get this huge hit in November when they can finally pay off the TAN. But so I'm doing this to show more of a what's it going to look like going into the future for the 12-month and for that 18-month, because if we have to do the 18-month, that's what our assessment this year is going to be, is for 18 months instead of 12. So we'll be facing a second payment in like April, May, June of 2026, which we don't want to do, so it would be, yes, no, 2027.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wait,
said the
can't
wrong
use
date.
it.
Yeah.
Please no. David and I both going, what?
Right, no, 2027, so,
Okay.
so like our budget as a town for next year, and we are one of the bigger towns, so we do share more of the cost. So that's why, number one, we're hoping that they'll decide to go back and not do the 18-month thing, because honestly, I think when I do this analysis, I can show them that they're changing to an 18-month is not going to significantly change their TAN, their interest, and that the amount of interest that they're dealing with is it's doable. The only other thing that I wanted to mention. They are asking, their own, legal, they're trying to figure out if they can do monthly billing to towns, or maybe, they were. And so I'm looking at you, Dave, because I don't know if you know anything about something like that, but.
I don't, but I would suspect, well, the council don't, but I suspect that they do the commitment and then we get a bill. Now, could we pay it monthly? We probably could make partial payments to them, but they're still gonna have a point where they have a deadline and we pay interest after that deadline and not before. And wow.
Interesting.
It was, one question that they were looking into was, if they could get the revenue to be spread out a little more,
Right.
then they.
The challenge, obviously, or part of the challenge for us is the county payments in here this month
Yeah,
or this
Right.
warrant. Well, the reason we're doing it now is because our tax payments are also due now. So if
Right.
we had to pay that back in July,
we'd have to borrow money. Yes,
well, we might not have to borrow money because we think our fiscal house is in order, but it would be a cash, might cause us a little bit of a shortage because we have some of our monies invested and we take out just what we need to make the bills get paid and.
Okay.
Be interested to see how how this all transpires. I know a number of towns that have gone through the switch from a calendar year basis to a fiscal year, and it's doable. It's just a matter of thinking through and doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. The only update I have, since you all know what's going on with the comp plan, is the school heating system. They're activating it on the 29th. Everything is done except for some wiring and bleeding inside the building, all the excavation, all the gas lines, everything else. If that is complete. And if all goes well, the 29th, it'll be
That's the ribbon cutting.
functional.
Day after.
We only have, I don't know if you've heard anything, David. I'd heard one item out there in regards to they still hadn't received approval on the funding. I didn't know if you had heard anything.
That's news to me.
Okay. The last I'd heard from one of the facilities committee members was that they had not received. I didn't make the last facilities committee. I was en route back from out of state. And that was a topic at the facilities committee meeting.
What funding? What do you mean?
They have to, they were doing a lease purchase plan with that. And so the bank has to approve that lease purchase. And the company the engineering firm that is putting that all forth moved forward in the good faith that it would all happen. And they're the ones that get the payment from the bank.
Right.
And they're the ones that front money to all the people doing it. And last thing I had heard was that it had not actually
Hadn't been.
been funded yet.
Yeah, did you hear why, Mike? Was there speculation? I mean,
I know one of the questions why originally was no
Well,
audits, but
yeah,
I haven't heard anything else.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
You did was on
we'll inquire.
I'm not a select person giving an update, but I'll expand upon the town administrator's update. Just to let you know that you mentioned comp plan, the comp plan survey has been printed and folded and given to the postal service for delivery.
Nice.
So watch your mailboxes. Also, that is available. You can complete the survey online. We posted the flyer on the town website and everything else. And please attend the November 19th, 6 p.m. workshop.
Yes. Moving on to item number 12. We have the treasurer and payroll warrants.
I move that we approve the treasurer and payroll warrants.
And sign them.
And sign them too.
I second. that.
All in favor? Only other, before we adjourn, one other question, David, do you need any guidance in regards to, that we can provide you this evening in regards to the custodial position?
Does anybody wish to be involved in the review of those or just come to you at the end and say, here's the recommendation, let's go?
I'm fine with you. Just
You,
make it a recommendation.
you may make a recommendation to us to move forward when the time is appropriate.
Yep.
Excellent.
I'm good with that.
Excellent. Then we have one final order of business.
Move that we adjourn.